Welcome to the CBTC. That's the abbreviation to use because the title is too long. Just CBT for Charles Buckley Topa and the extra C for cast. CBTC. This is the CBTC. Say it 3 times fast. CBTC, CBTC, CBTC. God, naming the podcast after my username and having me as the only member feels so self-indulgent. Oh my god. I should have thought that before I chose a name, but I've always been awful at names. If I named it something less up my own ass, some intelligent choice like I can't do names, but something like the Astral Cast, or the Conspiracy Cast, or the Horse Fuck Cast, something that doesn't make me look so condescending. I didn't even realize how bad it was until I tried sharing it, and I realized if all you saw was a user with this name, posting a video with the name Charles Buckley Told Podcast, it makes you look like a tool. I feel gross when I say, oh yeah, that subject you're talking about? I talked about that on my podcast. It's so gross. I feel slimy advertising my show with my name on it. This show can never take off because I'm so bad with names. It's all my fault. You know those people who say shit like, if I can do it, you can. Like, if someone is saying how they can't get a girlfriend and the other person's like, well, I can't talk to girls and I don't consider myself attractive, but I got one, so can you. It's not gonna help the other guy feel better, but the person saying that obviously thinks lower of himself and thinks that if he can do it, then anyone can. I say that advice is unhelpful, but when I look at people who can't make YouTube videos, I just instinctively think, well, if I can, anyone can. And what sucks about the hypocrisy is I still legitimately believe it is so easy to do it because it comes to me naturally. I find it fun. I don't find it difficult because any challenge I face is fun to solve, but clearly that's just me. That's just my experience. Everyone's experience is different. So no, I just because I can do it doesn't mean anyone else can. That's just me. You know what not everyone can do? Comedy. Okay, that's a really poor transition, but what I meant to say is that I have a beef with creators who feel the need to force comedy into non-comedy work. I watched a video that was supposed to compare Super Metroid and Hollow Knight, and hey, I played both of those games, but this guy was forcing this fucking JonTron wannabe comedy, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. The people who have JonTron-like comedy in their game reviews and analysis. There's a whole genre of people who talk about video games and reviews and analyze them, but force Jonathan Tronison the Aryan Sepharison into it. Here's the thing, JonTron is a comedy show, which means comedy is the priority, and the game review is just a vehicle to create comedy. This is fine. People don't watch his videos for analysis, but when I watch these guys trying to do serious analysis about things I want to learn about, but they structure it like a comedy. JonTron has like a joke every 2 or 3 sentences, which makes sense when the purpose of his show is comedy. But when I want this guy to tell me about some interesting, obscure accessory that like connects the Sega Genesis to cable to download games like an early Steam, I want to learn about that and not have a joke in every single paragraph of your script. I didn't come to the video about obscure video game accessories that connect consoles to an early analog internet, which is cool as shit, for comedy. Comedy is not a priority when I come to a video like this. The information in analysis should be your priority. I said, when these people write the script, do they just have a little bracketed phrase, insert joke here, in every paragraph? Fuck. I'm not suggesting no comedy allowed in things where comedy isn't a priority. A little comedy when you got a good joke is fine. It's when you force comedy, and it's clear that these aren't the creators' best attempt at comedy, and if they could choose, they would remove half the jokes and give the ones they consider good enough, Like, how much the show, the CBTC, is my attempts at comedy? 5% at most. I only insert it when it comes naturally, and comedy isn't the focus of the show. The priority, the reason you came, is for the insights and perspectives I offer. So I'm not going to make an episode of the show that is all comedy, because that's not why you watch it. I want to watch a video comparing Super Metroid and Hollow Knight, but 40% of it is forced JonTron humor. I don't want your jokes. I want your analysis. And the analysis sucked too, by the way. So not only are you not good at jokes, but you're not good at analysis either. If you try to go for both comedy and analysis, then you please neither the people who want comedy or the people who want analysis. Most people are better at one or the other, so play to your strengths, man. Do the one you're good at. I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories more, because I have a lot of interest in the conspiracy theories and psychology behind them, but I don't want to get political. But unfortunately, politics is now influenced by popular conspiracy theories, which is fucking ridiculous. I don't want to start talking about stupid culture war crap because it's really pathetic. Imagine being so boring, so lacking in meaning and purpose, but most of all in integrity, that you have to believe in a fake cultural war where the world is in danger and everyone is out to destroy your way of life so you have something to live for, which is fighting a fictional enemy you made up. I think what really throws me for a loop with these people is that they think that it's an either or situation, one or the other, every fucking time. It doesn't matter the subject. They present two options, like those are the only options. That's a logical fallacy. Like, whenever people propose hypotheticals, and they always set up dumb rules so you have to choose the options they give you. But what should happen is if the person is able to come up with another solution while still following the rules of the hypothetical, you should congratulate them for thinking outside the box. You should promote thinking outside the box. If they tell you to do A or B, but you explain how you're able to do C, and the hypothetical giver should play along, do the little roleplay, have some fun. The people who talk about traditional gender roles, traditional marriage, traditional lifestyle, and all that, they thrive in traditional gender roles and all that, which is fine, that's not a problem. But neither is not following traditional gender roles. They act like it's one or the other. Either society follows tradition or all order gets thrown out the window. But hey, here's a suggestion. What if traditional people follow tradition and people who aren't don't? People do what makes them happy and just fucking coexist despite differing needs and perspectives. Wow, was that so hard? It's almost like the Declaration of Independence wanted everyone to have an inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness or something. But here's the thing. The only way you could justify why everyone needs to follow your way of life instead of living their own lives is conspiracy theories about how society will collapse or something, which is why we need to follow your way of life. Instead of just expressing your opinion, you need to use fear, which is a very powerful emotion that makes people do things that they wouldn't otherwise. If you don't follow this lifestyle, communists will destroy society. The white race will die. It's in human nature, which you really know how I feel about human nature. My favorite one is just a vague term, moral decay. Yeah, people follow morals, but they aren't yours. Moral decay will happen. Like people will just forget that stealing and murder is bad, and law enforcement will just forget to enforce laws, and society will collapse because they forgot that, oh yeah, if you hit someone, they might hit back. So it's in your best interest to not hurt others. Again, you don't need the Bible to tell you murder is wrong when murdering people will make people want to murder you. It's in your self-interest to not fuck with people because people will fuck with you. It's a slippery slope. A slippery slope is when you suggest that because A might cause B, which might cause C, and then D and then E, therefore, A will cause E. That's a slippery slope. For example, if someone says you need to do your homework or else you will get a bad grade, which will make you drop out without a high school diploma, which will prevent you from getting a job, so you will be homeless. A could potentially cause E, but there are so many factors that also need to happen for E to come true. The bad grade might still allow you to graduate, people can get jobs without high school diplomas, etc. That is a slippery slope. Every letter you move down in causality just follow the chance, the percentage that the next letter will happen as you predict. If we were to be charitable and give the slippery slope person some benefit, let's say that there's 10% chance A will cause B, and a 10% chance from B to C and so on. The percentage that A will cause E is then 0.001% or 1 in 100,000. That is a possibility, but very unlikely. So whenever your people create a Rube Goldberg machine in their head to explain how all these causalities can lead to an undesirable conclusion, the number that in my mind always goes to is 1 in 100,000, which is charitable and gives them more of a possibility than the actual number probably is. If these guys just said, there are many lifestyles to choose from. There is the traditional lifestyle, there's this other lifestyle, there's this other lifestyle, and this other lifestyle, and you can follow any of them. But I follow traditional lifestyle, and I suggest you do the same. No one would have a problem, because you're just sharing an opinion and making a little persuasive essay, you know? But instead, you have to make up a villain to make your boring, worthless life just that much more stimulating. If you were theorizing about a group conspiring to do nefarious things, then that is a conspiracy theory. All I ask is for real, concrete evidence beyond circumstantial evidence. Every time you talk to these people, you just have to get them to admit their conspiracy theory, just drag them out and get them to admit the theory that they have, and then ask for proof. And once they show that all the beliefs aren't based on evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, you basically won. Circumstantial evidence is like when person A left their home from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., and person B was murdered from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. That isn't enough to prove that A murdered B by itself. Circumstantial evidence does nothing by itself. Circumstantial evidence simply fills in the blanks of the narrative. But by itself, all that evidence is just a theory. You need direct evidence, concrete evidence to make a case. Most cases that only have circumstantial evidence get thrown out, and for good reason, so I don't see why we can't do the same for these theories. This one moment comes to mind. I was talking to one of these people. They asked if I was Asian because of my voice. Okay. I said I was 1/8 Chinese, and they were like, yeah, I could tell. What? I never spoke an Asian language, or lived in Asia, or an Asian household, any actual factor that would affect my accent, just because my great-grandmother left China when Mao was taking power, but then completely converted to the culture she joined, and not even my grandmother, her daughter, knows Chinese. So, other than genetically, I am not Chinese at all. I even made a joke once that when people hear my voice, they think I'm either gay, Asian, or autistic, and only one of those is partially true, but whatever, that's not the point. The point is that the guy said that I might be in trouble looking for organ transplants, which was fucking out of nowhere. And again, I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, because mixed race people can't transfer organs, so you can only transfer organs to people of one race. Wow, that's weirdly racial and out of nowhere. So people like this guy think that race mixing is bad because they read some bullshit science that says that you can't transplant organs because they're different species or something. Okay, I'm not even offended. I'm just baffled that people had to make stuff like this up to justify not liking brown people. Because this guy wasn't insulting me or talking down to me after I said this. I'm sure he legitimately doesn't care that much. Instead, he just said it offhand like something I should look into. Just like he thinks he's trying to help me by saying that. It doesn't come from malice. It comes from believing in that crap and just trying to help in his own way. He wouldn't give a shit if he wasn't told that. He probably wouldn't care about race otherwise. The only reason he does is out of fear built on medical science he doesn't understand. This is what gets me. I can at least understand straightforward, explicit racism. There's nothing else to that. But when non-racists are just as afraid as societal class and all that doomsday talk, they buy it for that alone and then leads them to say things that are racially questionable. Fucking race. LMAO. What are we supposed to do about race, okay? Because, on one hand, I believe that we shouldn't treat people different based on race, so there's really no reason to talk about it, right? Because if you bring attention to race, then you're going to, create divide and stuff. So, on one hand, hypothetically, if we didn't talk about race at all and only mention it for, describing someone's physical features or for, health reasons or whatever, and that was the only time you ever talked about race and never brought it up in public discourse that much, then people would grow up with harmful ideas about race, right? They'd grow up not being told or talked about race, so they're just gonna become, more ingrained in those ideas that they came up with and then have, harmful ideas about race and become racist if we never talk about race. However, if we do constantly talk about race, then what that does, that creates identity politics. That makes an us versus them, that makes people want to split up into different groups, that makes people want to who's the villain? Who do we need to fight? Do we need to fight the white people? Do we need to fight the black people? What do we need to do? It makes people want to pick sides and say, oh, here's my side, oh, here's my politics, and then it also promotes racism. A different form, but still racism. It's all just so tiresome. There's nothing we can do about. What are we supposed to do? I don't know. We should open up dialogue about race or whatever and talk about it openly, but also somehow not make it an identity politics game where we have to find a villain and join people like us, or dialogue about race, but don't give a shit about race. Maybe that's a solution. I don't know. One time I worked at this grocery store and I was helping this old lady and she asked me, what is your ethnic background? At least she didn't ask where I'm from, like that one teacher who asked if I was an exchange student, and I said, no, I was born here. And the whole class went, ooh. So we told her, and she said, oh, I'm very multicultural. I just had this dumb smirk on my face helping this lady, because she clearly thought that this was how she would connect with me while I carried her groceries, by talking about how she likes other cultures. She's doing her best. She's old. She's doing her best, and she's not racist. She just doesn't know better. There's explicit racism, there's unintentional racism, and just ignorance. That's not a problem. I think we do need to open up a dialogue again to prevent ignorance. And it's really just not a subject I can talk about on a monologue, single-person podcast, because I feel like if we want to create understanding about complicated subjects like this, we need to have two people and have them, explain their ideas and explain their misconceptions, explain what they want to know, and then the other person can fill them in and they can have a dialogue, and then real understanding can come from that. I don't think I can do it on this show, okay? So I'm going to stop talking about race, okay? Well, let's get out of here. So, about understanding and everything, at one point, I was kind of I don't understand gender stuff. What's with all this gender stuff? What's the chromosomes, the transgenders? What's going on? And I didn't understand. So you know what I did? I looked it up. Yeah, I did my own research. I watched these nice little infographic videos. I read some Q&As. I went to like some thread, like LGBT stuff, and I was like, ah. And I was like, ah. I was like, I did all the gasp baby noises. I did all the baby gasp noises. I was like, ah. Yeah, I like doing that. Anyway, I was able to understand stuff like that. And, I'm also interested in sexuality and paraphilias and stuff, so it just also kind of helps me study that as I'm looking into gender crap. But, how I feel about gender is the same as I feel about race and how I feel about reality, which is that's not fucking real. Fucking pragmatism. I'm giving a bad name to pragmatism all the time. I just looked it up. That's how I learned about stuff I didn't understand. I fucking looked it up because I wanted to know more. And then other people might be like, I don't understand these gender kids. And instead of looking it up to try to learn more and try to understand something they don't understand, you know what they do? They just like, well, I'll never understand it. And they're in other, and I don't want to be associated with them. I think, like, for example, let's say that someone came up to, like, a transgender person and was like, so, did you get your dick cut off? The transgender person might respond, oh, no, actually the sex change process goes like this, and they explain it and stuff to get rid of the misconception that sex changes is about cutting off mutilating genitals. So if this transgender person was to explain to the other person that the sex change doesn't involve cutting off the dick, then they might be like, oh, my knowledge about sex change is wrong. If that's wrong, what else could be wrong? I feel like we need to open up a dialogue. Wowie. I just kind of compare it to like, I'm a cisgendered heterosexual male. At least I'm not completely white, but I say that's like a bad thing. That's a joke. I hate white people. I'm part white. Whatever. Who fucking cares? There's only one race. The human race. Thank you. Please retweet that. Please like and share that comment. Very, very deep message right there. But anyway, what I was going to say was that, so, I have, like, my experience of, like, being otherized and, like, feeling like I'm being treated differently because of my race. And then I kind of, like, compare that to how I imagine people who are other sexualities and stuff who might feel otherized, and like people might only see them just for their sexuality when clearly there's a lot more to a person than the sexuality or the race. So I just kind of like, I guess my rule is like, don't bring it up unless either A, they bring it up, or B, it's so relevant to the conversation that to not bring it up makes you look like an idiot. Like, if someone's talking about how, they got beat up by the KKK and you're like, I wonder what race has to do with this. You look like an idiot by not bringing it up. So only bring it up if it's being brought up. If like 40% of the time you meet someone, you talk about their sexuality or their race, then they feel like you only see them for that and not for like everything else that the person is. So that's just my rule, is that I don't bring up sexuality unless it's brought up first, because I don't want to seem like I'm fucking identity politics. Okay. Identity versus definition, right? I think that like certain identities you cannot be unless you identify as that, because categories are made up for us to understand reality but aren't real, because reality isn't real in pragmatism and all animals. But like, for example, let's say, okay, so what is a fan, right? A fan is short for fanatic. If you're a fan of Stranger Things, you're a fanatic of Stranger Things. And I think it is possible to, watch every episode as it comes out and talk about it with everyone and not be a fan of it. I personally feel like fan is something that you call yourself if you really feel attached to it and feel like it really is like, super important to you and your everything. So that's what makes you a fan of Stranger Things. If you just watch it and then talk about it sometimes, that doesn't necessarily make you a fan. At least that's just how I play with the linguistics that are the definitions that I made up and everything, because language is fucking noise. So I think that you aren't a furry unless you call yourself one. You aren't like a weeb or an otaku unless you call yourself one. Because it's a community, right? To call yourself that is to say, this is my community. To call yourself a fan of Stranger Things is to say that you're in the fandom of Stranger Things. At least that's how I see it. But that's different from definition, because definition is like, let's say like medical, right? Like let's say that you're diagnosed with cancer. It's not like you aren't a cancer patient unless you identify as one. You're a cancer patient by definition because you're being treated for cancer. If you're sexually attracted to children, that's not an identity. That's a definition. It's like, by definition, you're a pedophile because you're sexually attracted to children. Maybe there's a children sex fandom, but that's still separate from definition, you know? So like, for example, feminism, right? Different people have different ideas of what the word feminism means. One person will say, I'm a feminist. Another person will say, I'm a feminist. And they'll mean different things. They have different ideas of what the word means. I always feel like you need to define your words when you talk about these type of things, because otherwise, you're just kind of talking past each other. Like, one person will be using feminism, and the other person will think that's something else. And so they'll be responding to that as if feminism is something else. And then they'll be kind of talking past each other. Even though they're talking at each other, they really are completely separate because the words they are using mean different things to each person. So, like, definition... What was I going with this? I don't even fucking know. This is what happens when you don't have a note list of a couple of notes. It just becomes this crap. I didn't organize my thoughts that well today. This is an experimental episode where I don't fucking script it. Wow. I didn't plan this episode very well. I'm sorry. Please dislike this video. Tell me how I suck. Okay, I think I know what I could talk about. Back in middle school, I had a friend. Let's call him Kelsey. So, Kelsey wrote a very, very long story on Google Docs and shared it with all his friends. It was a story about a zombie apocalypse that happened at the middle school. Yeah, I know. This was during the, this is back when zombies were really big, okay? And he explained that he had a dream that we were all in a zombie apocalypse, so that inspired him to write this. And this was long, okay? This was fucking long. I mean, as a kid, you have a lot of free time, so I imagine he just kept writing, because this was like 100 pages, 200 pages, somewhere in that ballpark of ridiculously long. So the story was, one of those stories where like, the point of view changes every time, you know, where like, one chapter will say, this is from Kelsey's point of view, and the next chapter will say, this is from Steven's point of view. And it kind of goes through there, and like, him and all his friends are there, and I'm there, and like, I think at like chapter 5 or whatever, it says, you know, it's from my name's point of view. And like I climb out of a box, and like with two other friends who the two friends back in middle school that I associated with the most, I guess. So clearly Kelsey like put me with those two, and we were locked into the lost and found room of the school. And I compared being trapped in the box to puberty, because at that point in my life, when I was like 11 or 12, I thought puberty was really fucking funny. Okay? So I compared everything to puberty. It's like, that's what she said jokes, but it's just like puberty jokes. That's what I did, because I thought it was hilarious when I was fucking 12. Throughout the story, we'll be like, you know, crawling in like a bare field covered in rocks. I'd be like, it's so uncomfortable. And I'd be like, just like puberty. Like puberty, Kelsey would write that in. And then like, you know, there's just like a chapter with me and like my two other friends are like escaping from the closet. And then a couple chapters later, it's like two other friends that he has I don't really know. And man, he saw a lot about the story now to think about it. So zombies are coming after these two kids, and then I blow their brains out with a shotgun, and I'm walking into shotgun, and then like I like point at them, like, who are you? I'm just like, it's so weird. It's such an out of body experience to be 12 years old and read a long story, zombie survival story, where it's going through everyone's stories and like you're a character in it. And like he like described like the coat I wore. He described I had long hair, which I got a haircut when I was reading that, so I was like, fuck, I need to get my hair long again. And, you know, it goes through this whole story. At the end, everyone kind of meets up, and they all become, you know, the Kelsey crew or something, I don't know, didn't have a name. But, you know, his entire friend group was together with some other people, and then, like, we, like, go off, and we're, like, escaping from the middle school, and there was, like, something like 2 or 3 high schoolers suddenly come, and they're like, hey, let's join you. We escaped from the high school, and they also had a zombie apocalypse. And, you know, just like 2 or 3 people that Kelsey knew from high school that were just in the group now, and we were like escaping. That was the end of part 1. Part 2, we were now out of the school, and we're all together in a group, and the perspective still changed, But now we're like, all in the group and we're all working together, and we went downtown into the town that I live in that I won't name, but we were in the town. We went to the ruins of the town, we searched for materials, and we fought zombies, and this whole plot came around now that it was OCs, there was this 30-year-old woman who came, who was zombie apocalypse forever, and explaining how there's this one fictional super tech company that was basically the Umbrella Corporation or the Black Mesa. It was like the Umbrella Corporation, but my character in the story said, so it's like Black Mesa, right? They're a secret underground company that works with zombie viruses and stuff. So my character in the story compared to Black Mesa, but it's more like the Umbrella Corporation. And then there was they would get access to these injection things that basically could cure you of everything as long as you were alive. They could cure you of everything but zombification. And there was only a couple of them, and then there was some fight scene, and one of the OCs pushed down another one of the friend group's people. Oh no! And it was it's okay. He's just barely alive. He's 0.01% of his health bar. But luckily, I have this injection syringe cure that cures everything. And because he was still alive, I could inject him, and he's now okay. We're yay! His bones are fixed because he was injected. And then one of the friends who has anger issues ran out to fight all the zombies. No! And he died, and we had a little funeral for him. That's in the story. That's a small thing on the story. I also didn't know what a desert eagle was, but I just kept reading how everyone had desert eagles, and then I looked it up, and I was man, 12 people playing desert eagles. That recoil is gonna hurt, bitch. So that was the story that he wrote. And later on, when I was 15, and I had more of a brain, I looked back on it and I messaged him, and I was hey, I was just reading back on this. This is actually pretty good. I actually like this. This is pretty good. And he was oh yeah, I wrote that forever ago. It's based off a dream. I don't know what I was doing. And then he deleted it. He removed it. The Google Doc that I had a link to, gone, completely on. I fucking want that story back. Yeah, it wasn't the best story ever, but it was important to me because I was in it. Okay. I want to be more of it. I want to be more stories about my friends surviving the zombie apocalypse. And later on, I was in a club with one friend group, one friend circle, and one of them wanted to have a story, a collaborative story we all worked on. I was okay, that sounds like fun. I want to write a collaborative story, and it was Hunger Games. Okay, it was Hunger Games. It was fucking Hunger Games. It was a battle royale thing, but I get ahead of myself. The story was set after World War III ended, and the world was in ruin, and then they decided that wars would be decided not by armies, but by chosen combatants that were children who would be set in a war room with other chosen combatants, and they would fight each other, and that's how they would settle disputes. If they had a trade dispute, okay, get your children over here, and I'll get my children and make them fight. So the story was oh, this one guy's been selected. The story starts in the classroom when they're learning about World War III, so it's exposition dump. Then one of the characters gets fused out and you're selected, and then how are we gonna get to the base? I don't see a car or a plane. It's oh well, the elites us, we just use teleportation, and it gets teleported, and then for the forest, and there's big fight scene, and all the characters are us in the club. Okay, I'm a character. The guy came with the idea of the character. Everyone is the character, and one of them, and it's they're all weebs, they're all anime fans. So one of the girls in the club was had multiple personality and had an evil psycho personality. It was yandere or whatever. It was so embarrassing. Oh my god. And I put the most effort into it, writing it, because no one else really wanted to write it, but I was okay, whatever. So I wrote for it because I'm competitive, right? I just wanted to make it better than it actually was. I was this is shit, but I can make it better. I could improve it. So I tried to work on it, try to make it improve. I wrote this whole they were in a virtual simulation for the American Civil War, and they were using black powder, guns, lever actions. There's a Gatling gun, one person running around with a cavalry saber, and they're having the fight scene and stuff. And I think me writing that was probably the best part of the whole thing. Okay, yeah. Children, self-inserted children fighting in the American Civil War, virtual reality was probably the best part of the whole story, just because I wrote it, and I had an interest in the American Civil War at that point in my life. So I did a lot of research into this whole thing. Whatever, that ended. Then basically I was kind of talking to him, and I was yeah, I think zombies is overdone. I think Hunger Games is overdone. Here's my idea for something that's kind of like the Hunger Games, kind of like zombie survival. What if all the adults, everyone over the age of 18, just disappeared. So the world goes into chaos because, no adults can run the all the power grids. They can't run all the power generators. So within like a couple of days, the internet and the power will go out. So it'll be power outage and there'll be no law enforcement. So there'll be anarchy. But you can kind of have a fun adventure with like kids going around. Everyone is like having like factions and stuff. But you don't have to have zombies and you don't have to have like a crazy setting to justify a Hunger Games. It could just kind of be like, us in town going on an adventure with like, no parents and like anarchy and, technology is out. So it's like, yeah, that's a better idea. Let's do it. This is the one we took the most seriously, the collaborative writing that our club did. So, I wrote it that like the main character wakes up. Oh, wait, I just remembered. We weren't self-inserting this one. I think he realized that this was kind of embarrassing, so all the characters were OCs, right? They were all original characters. I gave them all names and everything, and we had like a nice little story where everyone's an original character. The only character who was not original was the leader of the club, who self-inserted himself again. His character in all of these stories was just like Naruto or Goku, in the sense that they constantly wanted to fight, but they were also really dumb. So they were good fighters, but dumb, but good-hearted. So this was like his character in all the stories. It's just like he would run into battles, be like, "No, stop!" And like he'd somehow get through, but usually cause trouble because he was stupid and like harmful, right? That was his character in all these stories. So I wrote it, so like, they come out and they're meeting and they're like texting and stuff, and then they're like, let's meet up at the school, and then there's like a whole assembly, and everyone's gone to the school, and then like we see that like, we finally learned that like what's going on. All the parents are gone all over the world. They've made calculations and said that like, yeah, the power's going to go out sometime around midnight. And so we're like watching this and learning about everything, and then the power goes out, and everyone's freaking out. They're like, oh shit, everything's going to collapse. We're going to have like nuclear meltdowns and stuff. What are we going to do? And then, the characters go up. There's like 5 people now, and they escape. And then I write more of it, and then there's like a fight scene. They use guns and stuff, and I like did research on guns, and that's how I gained an interest in guns, was waiting for this fucking club. Ugh. So then one of my friends like wrote a parody of the zombie apocalypse story, and it was like called The Walking Nerds. The Walking Nerds. And we're like all in the library, and I'm looking at the computer and say, haha, look, it's World War IV. And then World War IV happens, and then we'll become zombies. And like he writes a story where like, me and him were like running away to like a grocery store, and then I slip on a banana peel and then become a zombie, and then my zombie slips on a banana peel and dies again. It was fucking great. He wrote great comedy, like, esoteric, weird comedy stories, and that inspired me to write my own esoteric comedy stories. I wrote a couple of them. I wrote a story called, like, The Walking Nerds, my version, where, like, it was, like, they, like, travel through time and, like, go on adventure or whatever. Then I wrote The Walking Nerds 2 Unabomber Man, which is the plot of Demolition Man, but with the Unabomber. And, like, the Unabomber works with, like, the Columbine shooters. And Lee Harvey Oswald, who are all frozen, and then they come out and they're working with Sherlock Holmes to, like, defeat Walt Disney, who was frozen, Hitler, who was frozen, and Justin Bieber, who was frozen, who became like an expert swordsman and killed 23 teenage girls. So it's like, so the villains were Walt Disney, Hitler, and Justin Bieber, the swordsman. They became known as the best man with a samurai sword. And it was like a comedy story, whatever, fucking, And then I wrote a comedy story, which is like a superhero story before superheroes is a thing. Before the Avengers was a thing, I wrote hormone heroes, do 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 hormone heroes, do 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 boo 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 boo. And Hormone Heroes was about the superheroes Puberty Man, Captain Awkwardness, and Trojan Man, who were 3 superheroes called the Hormone Heroes. And what they would do is they kind of like, whenever a teenager is having puberty issues, they would like break through a wall to smash into it the Kool-Aid Man style, like, oh yeah! And they'd be like, haha, we see what's going on is you're having an erection. And like, it'd be like in the middle of class and everyone's laughing. So Puberty Man would just like break into homes and break into classes and just like explain emotions and puberty and erections and periods to people. I was still young. I was like 14 or something. Probably 13 now that I think of it. I think I was 13. Yeah, Puberty Man had a sidekick, which is Captain Awkwardness. Puberty Man had a puberty blade that had like a ball sack, and when Trojan Man's Trojan condom onto the sword, it became extremely powerful and can resist any STD. this was a comedy story I wrote. It's like a Captain Awkwardness had the ability known as the awkward silence, which could freeze time, it's like Dio, but like only for like 3 seconds. So like a 3-second window of the awkward silence to do whatever he needs to do. And then later, Captain Awkwardness is no longer a sidekick, and he becomes his own man, and he gains his own mecha, which is called Awkwardness Prime, which is like Optimus Prime, but it's Awkwardness Prime. And he just has like a mecha, and he's just like, it's like, I'm not a psychic anymore. I'm Captain Awkwardness, and I have my own mecha. And Trojan Man rode on like a horse, and he was like the Trojan horse, and it was full of condoms. It was pretty great. Pretty hilarious to little me. And then the villains were the hormone orthodox, which would like throw giant hormones at people and like make them be covered in hair or like covered in blemishes and just like horrible nightmare versions of puberty. They would just like throw hair hormones and like zit hormones at people. And like, this is we're gonna force everyone to go through puberty. And the hormone, he was like, time to stop you, hormone orthodox, and like he would pull out his puberty blade and go like, oh, and like put on the puberty with condom and like start slashing away the cupid arrows full of AIDS. It was hilarious to me. Oh my god, what have I been talking about? What is this episode? This episode is not structured. This episode was talking about like serious race stuff, and now it's talking about puberty condoms. What is this show? I don't know. People are either going to really like this episode or really hate it. There's no middle ground. So I was watching the second Fantastic Beasts movie, which is Fantastic Beasts Crimes of Grindelwald, and I realized what I don't like about the magic in these stories, because I don't mind magic in video games, because in video games there's a magic meter. There's like an MP, Like, it feels like it is a cost to using magic, so you can't spam it, and usually the game is built around the use of magic, So I don't mind magic in video games, but in stories, it's just like, you can shoot fireballs and there's like no cost to it, They can just spam it. In every story, I feel like. So I figured out how I'm going to use magic in the Conspiracy Series Cinematic Universe is that occult magic has a cost. Everything has a cost in my magic system. So it can't be spammed and it can't be overused, because the more powerful the magic, the more you have to sacrifice to get it. So occult magic typically is like animal sacrifices, human sacrifices, body parts, rare materials for alchemy and so on. So the more powerful the spell, the more you have to sacrifice to even get it to work. So secret societies have a pretty good reason to hide magic in my story, because if it gets out, then dictators and other psychopathic people will create human farms and stuff and do really unethical things to maintain power. And society also has a pretty good reason to fear magic, because they see it as a deal with the devil. Anti-magic people call it a deal with the devil, because to use magic at all is a gateway to doing more unethical things with power, doing more dangerous spells. So I'm developing the magic system, right? One of the magic things I'm going to use is the Hand of Glory, which is a real thing. You can look it up. Back in medieval ages, what people would do was they would cut off a thief's hand after they were hanged for their crime, usually the left hand, or the one that did the deed if it was specified, and they would pickle it, dip it in horse urine, and do the things for 23 days, because it's a whole ritual, and then it would become the Hand of Glory. And what it allowed them to do is to help them become thieves. They could open any unlocked door. They could light a candle, but only they would see it. They would freeze anyone who sees it in place. They would be able to turn invisible and all this stuff. I'm just going to stick with invisibility, because invisibility is pretty cool. So the way the Hand of Glory in my story is going to be, so it isn't OP, is that you can only use the Hand of Glory if it's made from your own hand. So to become invisible at all in my story is that you have to chop off a hand, and you have to hold it with your other hand. So in most cases, unless you hold something between your hands, you won't really have any hands available when you're using the Hand of Glory. So you'll be able to turn invisible, but you have to lose a hand. And you have to ask yourself, is that worth the cost? Because some people it is, and some people it isn't. So, invisibility becomes a thing, but there are ways to overcome it. You can, throw sand and, look at where the sand is going, and maybe you can, find an invisible person or whatever. There's ways to get around invisibility, obviously. But invisibility will play a role, most people can't do it because most people aren't willing to lose a hand. However, in the modern era, prosthetics make it more viable to get a Hand of Glory, because you can replace it with a robot hand. So it becomes more common in later in the storyline. For example, I have this one scene in my head where a psychic senses murderous intent, but they're looking around, they don't see it from anyone around them, and they whisper and they murmur under the breath, I think someone had a hand of glory. And then as soon as he says that, someone like drops their hand, turns invisible, reaches into the waistband and pulls out a 9mm and starts firing at the crowd. And there's like a fight scene where the psychic is trying to protect all the innocent people, while a one-handed invisible man is like trying to assassinate a guy. And it's like a whole fight scene, and it's like, has to try to use his powers to find him. It's really cool, the fight scene I have in my head. So because occult magic has such high cost, it won't be used as often as other people use magic. It'll kind of be like special occasions, like if we have to kind of thing. And because life holds such power, you'll see like a lot of like, animal intestines laid around. You'll see people who are missing fingers, missing ears, missing like chunks of flesh off their body, like really metal imagery. Because I kind of like metal imagery and like gorish stuff, you'll see a lot of it in the story. Like for example, there'll be books binded by human flesh, and because life has power, so the human flesh binds the book and it encases it in a spell, and the only way to read the book is to open up to the first page and then cut your thumb and let some blood spill on it, which means that you agree to the blood pact of the book. And each book has like a different promise. Usually it also adds, don't tell anyone about this book. And maybe it's like you have to perform a certain spell to read this book. You have to have been this old or like be part of the society. You have to like, be gay or something in order to read this book. And if you do the blood pact and don't agree to it or don't follow it, then, the book now owns your soul and you die. Most secret societies have blood pacts. That's it. When you join, it's like, I won't tell anyone about this. I'll keep it secret. Also, because it's unethical, depending on the setting and characters, some people might not even use magic. Like, they'll acknowledge it exists but not use it because they aren't willing to like pay the cost. But the villains usually do. So those characters have to like use clever practical means to defeat the magical villains. Think like Solid Snake as a regular guy in the Metal Gear Solid series fighting superhuman villains. It's like that. He has to like be clever and use certain items and use the advantage in the environment to defeat them. That's what it'd be like. Also, I learned that Dracula is able to use magic because he was also a wizard who studied in the Solomance, which is a secret society in Transylvania. So vampires typically can't use magic, but Dracula could because he was also a wizard. So there's some vampire lore for you, okay? The Solomance is going to be another secret society in my setting. I am currently doing research into Alexander the Great to see how I can include him into this story. How I can have Alexander the Great as a character, see like what he can do. I've done research on Solomon, like the Seal of Solomon would be another item of power. There'll be a whole bunch of like relics who are associated with Jesus, like, the Crown of Thorns, the Holy Grail, the Spear of Destiny, the True Cross, and like a couple of other relics associated with Jesus. Each of those like have power, and they'll be protected. What happens if you collect them all? Ooh, who knows? So I'm working on the Conspiracy Cinematic Universe, but you probably don't give a shit. What you probably do give a shit about is fucking... What you probably give a shit about is me rambling about things that you don't like. So, the clout chasers. A clout is like, power or influence. A clout chaser is someone who hangs around popular people, hang on in at celebrities and stuff, hang around celebrities so that they can kind of get some power and some influence as well, right? So, there's like popular internet people, these super big YouTubers and stuff, and there's people who like kind of surround them. I've met these people, right? They surround themselves around these people, like, oh, hey, famous person, hey, we like stuff, hey, they're like trying to get that influence from them. Those are clout chasers, and it's so fucking, I hate them. That's my rant. I hope you like and subscribe. I mean, here's the thing I gotta say to the clout chasers who constantly bother popular people and hope they can get that popularity onto them. If you want to learn how to win friends and influence people, just read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just read the book, and you can probably do it. Just read 48 Laws of Power. Just read The Ego in Its Own. Just read some cool books. Download the audiobooks off of torrents.eu or Pirate Bay. And get your audiobooks telling you how to become a cool person and get influence and power. That'll probably help you more than being a nuisance to other people. Just a thought. I started listening to audiobooks because I'm so done with podcasts. So I started listening to audiobooks, and I'm like, oh no, I'm becoming old. Old people listen to audiobooks. Oh no. Okay, actually, I just remembered something. So my club, the one that I was talking about with the collaborative writing, the main guy was like, hey, I have an idea. Let's have a chess fight with the chess club. And I was like, what? And like, yeah. We'll put ourselves on the map. We'll have influence stuff. We're just gonna fight a chess club. So we talk to the chess club and like we set it up. In 2 weeks, we're gonna like play chess, right? So for 2 weeks, every hour, every night, I would be watching videos about chess. I didn't play chess that much that 2 weeks, actually. I played maybe like, a little chess on one of the club meetings with like let's practice, let's play some chess. But other than that, I just watched videos. I just kept watching videos over and over talking about chess. And the idea was that I'll watch it as I go to bed and then sleep on it. And then let that knowledge and strategies enter my subconscious because I just learned about it before I fell asleep. And then don't bother with chess the rest of the day. Then at night, again, watch an hour of chess videos and then sleep on it. Let it enter my subconscious and my knowledge after I sleep on it. And I did that over and over. And then eventually it was time and I was paired up a girl. And I was like, okay, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to use the French defense. I'll let her go first because people think that going first is good. I'll play the French defense and defeat her. So I played the French defense. She didn't react how the French defense told me the other person would react. I was like, LMAO! And I got it down to where I had like a king and a rook and she had a king. So even though it was technically a tie, I basically won. Because I had 2 pieces and she had 1. So basically I won. It was a king and a rook versus a king. So I was just like, yeah, I fucking beat the chess club because I just watched 14 hours of fucking video, an hour every day, 14 days. And, the other kid, he did well. He lost, I guess, but, they told him, here, you could have done this and this, and they're, like, helping each other, and they're like, oh, this is a fun game, yeah. So, I just always think back to that as, like, me working hard to beat someone at chess just because I felt like I had something to prove, and I was really competitive. So I just... that's the only reason. The only reason I did that was for that one time. And after that, I didn't play chess. I still don't play chess, really. I don't play chess that often. Maybe like once a year. I probably don't play it all in 2018 now that I think about it. But I did it all just so I could show who's boss. And then later in computer class, we're like making websites. And I saw this girl sit next to me and she's like putting like, chess images. Like, I like chess. I'm like, I fucking beat you. There was one time where this person was like, sitting in the cafeteria at lunch at school, and he had like, there's like that band that Hitler has with like swastika that's like red, and he like wraps it around his arm. He had one of those with the school mascot on it, and said, "Hey, where it is with school pride?" And he was like handed it to me, and I looked at it, and I saw there was writing under it. I was like, "Hey, what's this?" And I read it. It was like xkcd.com/a number. I was like, "Oh, it's nothing. Here, wear it." And he was like trying to like, put like a Nazi armband on my hand, but had the school mascot on it instead. And I just like looked at it, memorized the number, and then said, give it back. Walked over to computer class, entered the account, and it was like an XKCD comic strip about school pride and how school pride is dumb. And I was just like, I didn't need XKCD to tell me that. I already knew school pride is dumb. This kid's fucking dumb. This kid's so fucking pretentious. Oh my god. I had all these topics written down, but I don't know how to go through them. What am I doing? This episode is terrible. I need to script everything. I need to script 100% of the podcast. I can't do it. I don't have any topics. I can't do it. This show sucks. How normal are you on a scale of 1 to 10? That's the... Oh, fuck. What have I talked about in the last hour? I'm gonna go overtime. I'm gonna talk about something else. I know. It's a topic I've been saying for a long time. Okay. When I was younger... Fucking bullshit. Fucking mom. Get out of here. Stop texting me, mom. When I was... younger, I wanted to be interesting. When I was younger, I was like, man, life is so boring. I'm gonna learn interesting things to make life not boring. So I looked into conspiracy theories and I became a conspiracy theory boy when I was like 12. And ever since then, that's the kind of the word I would use. I'm like, I need to be more interesting. I still have some trouble talking to people, but I've gotten a lot better at it. But that was mostly faking confidence. That was mostly like self-help book type of advice. It wasn't really about becoming interesting. But I made a YouTube channel because I was like, you know what's interesting? YouTubers. I'm going to become one. And I was like, I didn't know what to make. My first idea was like a vlogging channel. I just make vlogs where I talk about subjects that I care about. And that's kind of what this podcast is, isn't it? I guess I did get what I wanted because I made a YouTube channel where I talk about bullshit and do stream of consciousness. That's what I wanted to do originally. But I was like, that's dumb. Then I started to do a tech channel and I record some stuff. I like recorded myself fixing my mom's computer. I like reviewed an NBC player. I gave little tech tutorials on another channel, completely separate from this one. Yeah, so I did it on, so, I have a channel separate from everything else. I just talk about tech stuff. You don't need to see that, it's all terrible. I will still learn how to make videos. And then I made a channel for something that was like memes and shitposts, I guess. And that became my main channel. I just experimented till I got to the point I am. And I was like, oh, memes. And now I'm like, now that I have a YouTube channel, now that I have subscribers, now that I have followers, I'm interesting. Isn't that cool? So, something I would do is when I'm like, and it was mostly like when I started doing voice chats with strangers online, that was like the first time where I was like, I realized I didn't know how to maintain the conversation, you know? So the question I would typically ask people was, as like a conversation starter, was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how normal are you? With 1 being least normal and 10 being most normal. And no matter where I went, I noticed this after doing this many, many times, was that even in the most, normie, 30-year-old, like, parents, like British parents who have children in a 30 years old channel, to hyper furry plush fuckers, that they all typically gave the answer 5. The most common answer across all of these places was 5. I am a 5. I'm not too normal and I'm not too weird. But if everyone's saying 5, then that's the most normal answer, isn't it? Because 10, the most normal, is like the Hollywood idea of normalcy. That's like the perfect, idea of a person that like we see in like, movies and stuff that doesn't really exist in real life. They're super rare. They're not actually that normal, but we associate the idea of normalcy with this like, nuclear family type of thing that most people aren't. But of course 1 is like, serial killers. So most people consider themselves a 5, no matter where they are. That's an interesting thing. So I would say later on, I'll be like, well, if 5 is exactly between 1 and 10, so out of all these numbers, you choose the most normal one, you choose the most average one. So you view yourself as extremely average and extremely like in between the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And I like, explain it to them, and they're like, oh no, I'm really weird. I swear I'm not normal. I'm super weird. Sometimes I think things that people don't think. Sometimes I say things and people look at me weird. That was one response I got, and I'm like, what? Like, well, that's normal. Most people sometimes get weird looks when they say weird things. That's not abnormal. It's like, yeah, but sometimes I think things to myself. Like, you mean you have intrusive thoughts? Yeah, sometimes I think about murdering people. That's normal. Most people have thoughts about killing people, okay? That's not abnormal. It's like, you think about killing people? And I'm like, not that in depth. Just, I like guns. So I think about fight scenes mostly. That's normal. And I was like, that's weird, dude. You think about killing people. I'm like, you're such a fucking normie, get out of here. The number I give myself was a 3. I'd say I'm a 3, and the reason why I give myself a 3 is like, horseshit, 18GB meme folder that I have right now, all organized and labeled shit, conspiracy theory shit, lucid dreaming shit, and fetish interest shit is why I'd give myself a 3. And in most cases, that was still like, most people was like, dude, you're a 1. I was like considered really weird by all of them, which is fucking stupid. This whole, I just wanted, and obviously, I'm using that as a conversation starter. How normal are you? But obviously, normalcy is just kind of like, it's not real like race or gender or reality, but I just use that as a conversation topic to talk about, basically make them talk about things that make them interesting and try and like, explore these type of subjects. And then I found out that everyone's boring as fuck, and I'm more interesting than all of them. Oh my god, what am I talking about? I'm not drunk right now. I didn't script this very well. This episode sucks. I hate it. Now make another episode about scripting the entire thing. CBTC, follow me on Twitter. Become a clout chaser and try to steal my popularity from me. Stream of consciousness. Oh, all night, aren't I so emotionally manipulative? Aren't I like super true to myself right now by like talking like I hate you? What am I talking about? This sucks. No one wants this. I'll end it right now. See you on the astral plane, I guess. I'm not making another episode until I know it's going to be good, okay?